Israel's security cabinet set to convene today for an emergency meeting to discuss new steps aimed at preventing additional terror attacks. The latest attack took place Friday, leaving 2 children dead and 1 other. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has doubled down on his demand for a large-scale military operation in East Jerusalem, despite being rebuked on the matter. And he's reportedly demanded a list of demolition warrants from the municipality. Last night, Jerusalem police and IDF forces sealed off the family home of the terrorist, Hussein Karaka, who rammed his car into people waiting at a bus stop on Friday afternoon. The openings of his parents' home were sealed after receiving the required approvals and in accordance with the sealing order and confiscation of the house. Hussein's 2 brothers were also arrested, and the High Court extended their detention and questioning at the central unit of the Jerusalem district. And we're now joined in studio by former IDF Senior Intelligence Officer Raphael Jerusalmy. Thanks for joining us. I know that on Friday you were speaking to me when this whole terror attack happened. Obviously, it's been a very tough weekend for everybody. What can you tell us more about this emergency meeting and what can be accomplished or not accomplished?
Well, the emergency meeting is the position of government as opposed to the position of at least one minister, Mr. Ben-Gvir, the Minister of Internal Security, who seems to be in a complete collision course with the professional elements of the security of Israel, meaning mainly the police, but also the IDF and even the Shin Bet. Why? Because he wants to increase the reprisals and the measures against terrorists at a time when the whole of the government and especially the security services are advising not to do so because of the coming of the Ramadan, because of negotiations, direct and indirect, being led with the terrorist factions through Cairo, through Jordan, because of the insistence of people, nations of the Abraham Accords, like the Emirates, not to increase tensions, to pass quietly this month of the Ramadan, and not to play in a way in the hand of the terrorists. Mr. Ben-Gvir, by wanting to increase the tension, is doing exactly what the terrorists want. They want that. They want to inflame the region.
They want to have a reason and an excuse to do
exactly.
that. Right.
But there is a loophole there because he is the Minister of the Internal Security. And he can apply, for instance, to East Jerusalem, a policy that would be completely different from the policy applied to the West Bank. Because in the West Bank, you have the military occupation, the military ruling, where there they have decided not to go through with demolition of houses or some reprisals because they want to appease the tensions. But Mr. Ben-Gvir in East Jerusalem, because it's inside Israel, can give orders to the police to do exactly what the army doesn't want to do and go and destroy more and more homes and put pressure. So in a way, in a normal time, it would be okay to do so. Why not? To try that strategy, to be tougher. But at this particular moment, it's not the right time to do so. Even what was accomplished last night and this morning to seal out the house of a terrorist, it was done very quickly. There was no time even for the family to appeal to the Supreme Court, which is usually the law. There was not enough time even for the security forces to see if this was the optimal time to go into this area. It's very dangerous for our forces to go and steal a house or demolish a house.
Right.
So we have all these problems where the government has its own program. Their program is one, to suppress funds that are usually given to terrorists and their families, to confiscate those funds and keep them in Israel coffers, to deploy more and more police presence in Jerusalem all around, to have concrete protections at many bus stops that are still missing. So there are a series of measures that are being taken by the government.
Okay, also let's talk, last night apparently there was a rocket that was fired from Gaza that was shot down by the Iron Dome, but there hasn't been any official response on part of the Israeli forces. Can you tell us why?
Yes, there are 2 reasons. One, the first reason is that it might be what you call a technical accident, meaning it's not it was not intended to be shot, that rocket, but it was dangerous since it was intercepted. It means it was going towards a target that could could have been with
deadly.
People there, yes, deadly. And the second is confirming what I just told you now, a wish to appease tensions at the approach of Ramadan. A reprisal to go and shoot back at Gaza right now would be to invite the terrorists again to play in their hands, and then they would maybe shoot back again, and then would be into an escalation.
So do you think overall that decision not to retaliate is kind of a preemptive situation because of the upcoming Ramadan holiday?
Yes, I think so too. And the only thing that remains open now is the targeted killings of leaders of the terrorist faction. This remains on the table because they have praised the recent attacks. With the little children being killed in a cowardly way, they praise that. So they're still under the visor of the IDF. Would it be necessary? But other measures like would be translated as collective punishment of Palestinians or people from East Jerusalem will not be taken. They're not that efficient in a way. And why punish people who are right now quiet? And we would create a bitterness that would make them less quiet and maybe more supportive of the terrorists.
Right, right. Also, let's talk about the Operation Defensive Shield 2. Can Ben-Gvir just decide, okay, this is what we're calling it, and so it goes?
Well, the problem with Mr. Ben-Gvir, he has his rights to his own ideology, he has his rights to want maybe tougher measures and to be angry at terrorists, but he's in a position where he should be professional, keep his cool, and also learn the history of Israel, because the defensive shield operation has nothing to do with the present situation. We were in an intifada situation. We had 31 Israelis were killed in 1 month. 31 Israelis were killed in the whole of 2022. So it's not exactly the same level of emergency. The conditions were different then. We were attacking directly terrorist factions. Here we're not attacking terrorist factions because most of the attacks, especially the last ones in Jerusalem, were perpetrated by lone wolves. So you cannot have defensive shields against lone wolves. So all this is completely nuts and dangerous, very, very dangerous for Israel's security. It's the first time I think that the security of Israel is in the hands of somebody who is so unprofessional.